Well, at exactly 1 p.m., let us start the meeting. No comments, please, about the time. And I'd like to call to order the City Council, Library Board, Housing Authority Board, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency regular meetings for Thursday, July 2nd, 2015. Isaiah, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Kite?
Here.
Councilmember Smotrich? Councilmember Smotrich? Councilmember Townsend?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wild?
Here.
And Mayor Hobart?
Here. Well, we are going to start off today's session with a reminder to turn off your cell phones.
Does that include you too?
Of course, I
Very good.
try to lead by example. We're going to start with a presentation of Carol Scott. I'd like to ask Richard, would you handle this matter for us?
Thank you, Dana. It's my pleasure to be here today to introduce our past president of the Board of Directors of the Children's Discovery Museum, Kate Spates. Kate is here today to introduce our new CEO for the museum, Carol Scott. The board of the museum is really excited about this recent selection of Carol to lead the museum in the future. So Kate and Carol, would you like to come forward? Tell us more about this exciting change.
Thank you for having us today. We really appreciate the opportunity. I led the committee to find Carol, and Carol found us. And Carol comes to us with over 20 years of museum experience. She's been consulting for the last 4 years with nonprofits all over the country. We had probably 20 applicants that were really quite qualified for this position this time when we went out for the search. And then we met Carol, and we were all done. It was a slam dunk. The only thing was, can we afford her because she's so illustrious? So without further ado, because we have so much to share with you about the direction that she's taking the museum, I want to turn it over to Carol.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Mayor Hobart and honorable council members. I am thrilled to be here today. I'm quite home in a city council chamber, having spent many evenings there with my husband, who's a current city manager, and many different children's museums across the country. So thank you for the opportunity. It's my 32nd day at the Children's Museum, and it is my third children's museum to be at the helm of, and I couldn't be more delighted to have landed in Rancho Mirage, which I am a new resident of 34 days. So I was here 2 days before I started, and have thoroughly enjoyed my time so far. I have made a copy of the slides for you because in true Carol Scott fashion, I have more than 5 minutes prepared, and so I don't want to be taken off with a hook. So I've prepared it, and I'll skate through it, and then you'll have it for all the things that I couldn't cover. But I would like to also bring notice to a person who's been instrumental to me in my new role, along with Kate. We have our newest member of the staff next to me, and that is Kyle Pong, who is in the audience with us. And Kyle is in charge of all of our educational programs and has already begun to make changes in the short 7 months that she has been at the museum. But today I want to just highlight some of the vision, or what I like to say, the dream of what is to come in the future for CDMOD. We exist to ignite passion for learning in all children. I am an educator by first job, and a trainer, and a teacher of special needs kids. So I have a great passion around education, and the Children's Museum world ended up being ideal for me because I can do education for all children in one place the way I think it should be done. And we exist to ignite a passion around learning. And we've been open here, you know, a long time. And what was fun is that the first month you were open, I actually made the first visit to your museum when I was the director of Kids Space Museum in Pasadena. And it's exciting to see how well it has been maintained. It's beautiful still. It's a gorgeous building. But I bring to the plate a lot of changes in program, which is one of my passions. And we are going to be more designed for 6 to 11-year-olds than we are currently, and will expand beyond our early childhood program. Our exhibits will be expanded. We will focus on what we call a multidisciplinary approach, in that we will not just focus on science, but we will focus on the arts, which include music, which include drama, that includes all aspects of the arts, humanities, culture, science, health, and the environment. And one of these days I hope to have an exhibit out there on the desert, because as you will see in this, we have a significant number of tourists that come here, and I think we could be a great place to tell and teach kids about the desert. We are designed to stimulate curiosity and imagination. We emphasize a diverse ability in children and a diverse ability of children. One of the ways that we will begin to expand our exhibitry, unless somebody can hand me a couple of $1 million, we have to do this a little at a time. But we plan in the fall to do a new launch with a traveling exhibit, and we will continue to have traveling exhibits every 3 to 4 months, which will help stimulate repeat business. But the first one I've actually copied you on because it's one of my favorites. It's called The Super Kids Save the World. It's based on a book, so there will be a focus on literacy, and if you open that up, you can see that it's teaching kids what they can do to save the environment. One of the things that we will add to this exhibit that is not currently with it, because it comes from St. Louis where they don't have a water issue, we will add a component on the conservation and the saving of water along with this exhibit. And if you come at the right time, we may even give you one of the super capes to be a part of our launch of the museum. Our programs, which will be focused on 2 to 15, they're developed around our exhibits, but they will also expand to include content that focus both on the regional area and beyond. It will emphasize diverse abilities of children, and we will have a significant component for children with disabilities. I am sure that some of you may have grandchildren in these pictures, but these are pictures of our current location and exhibitry. Moving on to school partnerships, we will become a powerful resource for teachers, enhancing in-school learning and expanded informal alternative learning. We will begin a school program that has 30 to 45 minutes of a formal lesson with pre-packets to the teacher to prepare the children to come receive the information, and post-packets for the teacher afterwards so that they can take the information and expand it into their classroom. We will link and have some connection with the state curriculum guidelines and standards. The next program, which will be our YES initiative, which stands for Youth Empowered Through Service. This will focus on middle school and high school students and will be a year-long program. We will seek children. Anybody can come, but we will intentionally seek children who are the average kid that doesn't get recognized, that kind of gets lost in the shuffle, might be on the cusp of deciding whether or not he's going to be a good kid or a troubled kid. We're going to take those kids and put them into an opportunity called the YES program, where they can not only volunteer in the museum, but participate in 3 leadership opportunities, one of which will be a youth advisory council, where they will get training on leadership skills from people, hopefully in the community, who are willing to help me train young people on problem solving, on proactive thinking, on all kinds of leadership skills, but also a paper bag players troupe, which will do short-term plays, performances for the children, and also reading and writing a literacy opportunity where they will produce an online news sheet that they will construct, interview, and then post on our website. The next new program will be called Get Up and Grow, which will be our early childhood program. And this will be extensively expanded to include content for early childhood that is focused on what we call the Reggio Emilia approach from Italy, and is the premier early childhood approach across the country and is used in many children's museums. There will be weekly workshops. There will be all kinds of ways to expand the senses, motor skills, cognitive skills, and social skills. We will also expand to include more activity classes, parent education, as I am a licensed parent educator, workshops, and quarterly lectures. The next one will be our weekend workshops, special events and camps. Each weekend we will do thematic presentation of workshops that are included with admission that have a quarterly theme that will focus on some aspect that we determine will facilitate these workshops. We will also offer enrollment programs, an extended birthday offering that will be after hours for parents, rentals, and other ways to stimulate earned revenue. I don't know, some of you may know that our operational costs for each visit, if you calculate it on how much we have to pay to operate and the number of visitors with some look there, is $16 per person. For each regular $8 of administration or admission, the museum must raise up to must make up the $8 that's missing in fundraising and earned revenue. For each school participant, who we only charge $5, we then have to generate and make up $11 per visitor. And for our outreach efforts, which we will expand extensively, we have to raise the full operational cost. And the $16 is actually probably a bit low. But in 32 days, I haven't quite mastered all of the financial data, but it's close. In the last year, there were approximately 65,000 people that went through the museum. Looking at the way we have monitored that, I think that is very low. I think if you look at our MSA, if you look at what we're capable of drawing, we could be 3 times that size and be well within what the rest of the country does in children's museums our size. 33,000 of that are from our valley, and 26,000 and over is actually from other states. And if you look, we have a significant number of international volunteers. And again, I think our monitoring has been mediocre at best in terms of where are you from, how did you learn about us, which we will begin to institute. But we know for sure we had visitors from Canada, the UK, China, Japan, Mexico, Greece, and Australia just last year. We have a special program for military, and we had over 1,000 in military patrons last year, and almost 5,000 in school programs, with over 1,000 completely scholarshiped or underwritten admissions. Coming soon, major exhibit updates, school program updates, thematic quarterly programming, offerings for special needs kids off hours, an evening a month. And in September, we plan to launch all of this as a new opportunity to come back and come see CDMOD, where you can see more, do more, and be more. And that, I'm sure, is over 5 minutes, but if you have questions, I'm happy to try to entertain them in my 32 days of knowledge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing what happens in the next 32 days.
Yeah, well, I've told everybody kind of hang on and buckle up. But before I leave, I want to say a sincere, heartfelt thanks for all that the city has done prior to my arrival and the notice of the 25,000 just last week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dana, you can see why the museum is so excited about Carol joining the staff, providing a whole new direction and a whole new spirit for the organization.
Yeah, that is exciting, and I think it's something we're all looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I'd like to just make an announcement. Our Chief of Police, Lieutenant John Shields, is back from a brief respite. Just wanted to welcome you back, Chief, and glad you're here. And now we'll move on. If I could get the Manharts to meet me down below.
Which I wouldn't let go. Bill wanted to get rid of it. I said, no, we're keeping it.
Caption Mirage, huh?
Bad fuses. They found bad fuses on the board.
Right over here, if you would. One of you on this side, one of you on that side. That'll keep me honest. The reason we're celebrating the Manharts today, Pat and Joe, is just as a reminder to our community and to ourselves of what a great public service these people have provided not only to our community but around the world. They've given, as you'll hear in just a moment, they've given thousands of hearing aids to children in all various parts of the world. They have a real kind and generous heart, and they're the kind of people that you like who are doing business in our city. So let me read a little so people can have a little more of an understanding of what you guys have done and why we're so pleased to provide you with this proclamation. Whereas Pat and Joe Manhart are the former owners of Advanced Hearing Systems with offices in Rancho Mirage and Palm Desert, and between them they have over 70 years of experience in the hearing aid field. Let me know if you want me to speak up. And whereas both Pat and Joe are past presidents of the Rancho Mirage Rotary Club, with Pat currently serving as Rotary President, as well as past president of the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce. And whereas the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce named Joe Businessman of the Year in 2006. That was the year that he got out of bankruptcy, am I right? That was excellent. Pat was nominated as Businesswoman of the Year for having kept her private property outside of bankruptcy. It's just fantastic manipulation, and she does all my stock picking. She's the one that told me to buy Google when I was at 15. That's the only time I've disregarded her. Big mistake. At any rate, I digress. Also, the Rancho Mirage Chamber in 2008, Pat and Joe were honored as Distinguished Citizens of the Year by the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce for their charity work within the community and around the world. And that was, 7 years ago. So it's time we did it again. And this free work that they did around the world was fitting hearing aids to underprivileged children. And whereas Pat and Joe have worked with the Starkey Hearing Foundation on missions to 23 countries, with the most recent mission being to China, where they helped to fit 6,900 children and adults with over 12,000 hearing aids, thereby giving the children a chance to learn and improve the quality of their lives. And whereas Pat and Joe actively support many Coachella Valley charities, including Habitat for Humanity, Cancer Society, American Heart Association, Act for MS, Alzheimer's Association, Children's Discovery Museum, Martha's Village, Palm Springs Air Museum, Barbara Sinatra's Children's Center, Animal Samaritans, Big Brother and Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, and we'll just say and many others. That works for you?
I don't have any money.
You know, you should have bought Google at 15.
I didn't listen to her.
Anyway, whereas Pat is a member of the Rancho Mirage Literary Society and the McCollum Muses. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Dana Hobart, Mayor of the City of Rancho Mirage, and on behalf of our entire City Council, do hereby proclaim July 2nd in Rancho Mirage as Joe and Pat Manhart Day. And thank you both very much. Let's give Papa a chance here to say a word or two.
Well, we're really honored to receive this recognition. I didn't realize how much we had done until you spelled it out for me. It's a work of love that we do. We truly get more out of these missions, these hearing aid missions, than we put into them. When we see the faces of these little kids light up when they hear for the first time, and knowing that we've given them an opportunity to better their lives and give them a chance to get back into mainstream society, it's very, very rewarding for us. Unfortunately, in a lot of these third world countries and less fortunate countries, if a child has any kind of an impairment, they just consider them defective, they put them in an institution and forget about them because they have no infrastructure to deal with it. So that's when we come along and do our little bit to try to help. So.
Thank you, Joe. Pat, a word or two from you?
Of course.
Of course.
Thank you.
And you notice that I'm giving you the last word.
Oh.
I've been trained well.
Oh,
in
you
that
are
regard.
trained well. That's wonderful. Thank you. Well, we love Rancho Mirage. We just would never live anyplace else than here. We came in 1999, and we have loved every minute of it. I do have to tell just a quick story about a man in China. This will, I think, is so interesting. He was 102 years old. He had not heard in 70 years. He had had a disease that had taken most of his hearing, and his son, who was 70 years old, brought him to the mission for hearing aids. And behold, we fit him, and he could hear. And his son and he both were laughing and crying, and I have to tell you, that was worth the whole 12,000 hearing aids that we fit. That was one of the best fittings we did, and as Joe says, we get much more out of this than we put into it. So we have enjoyed every minute of it. We've enjoyed serving Rancho Mirage in all the capacities, and I thank you so much for this honor. It's a great big surprise. Thank you very much.
Well, why don't you carry this? Joe, thank you, guys. You're welcome. I'll kiss you. Well, that was a happy event. What we're coming to next can't be considered happy, but it can be considered deserving. We are losing one of the most valuable employees the city has ever had. His name is Bruce Harry. Everyone in this room knows him. His wife, Diana, is here. She came bearing gifts like a good Greek would. And appreciate that. Don't think I didn't notice. I did. And for that, I won't say the bad things about your husband that I had planned to say. At any rate, Randy, should you and I step down yonder and move on from here?
Certainly, Mayor, let's do it.
And Bruce, why don't you, wherever you are, hiding out as usual in the far corner, why don't you join us?
Too enthusiastic about losing Bruce. Yeah, well, I'm happy for him is what I am, but I'm not. Yeah, okay. So Bruce was supposed to have today off, and a couple of weeks ago I looked at the calendar and I said, well, that was a mistake, so I revoked the personnel action form, and I said, this is your last council meeting, you need to be at City Hall. So what happened this week? We came to work on Monday morning, we had a flood in the basement where our server is and our IT staff works and our records department is and our electrical room is located, and that's what started the week. We had a new chiller and condenser installed at the City of Rancho Mirage. You can feel it in this room. It's not working today. So I really have a lot of heartache losing Bruce because he has been our go-to guy for the past 30 years. 30 years and 1 month today, to be exact. I have a couple of comments I'd like to make. Some of them are a repeat from our going away reception we had for you a couple weeks ago, but certainly they bear repeating. There is an important point I'd like to make. Bruce has been here for 30 years. We have an intern, Daniel Trevino, that's been here for 3 weeks. So from a succession planning standpoint, the city is always growing. We're always invigorating with new blood, and I like to see that. There's a beginning and there's an end sometimes. Bruce was hired in 1985 to oversee the city's capital improvement projects. Who would have thought that 30 years later he'd be proudly retiring from the fine city of Rancho Mirage? Bruce's first big project was the Magnesia Falls flood control channel. Some might remember the big floods of 1978 and 1979. Bruce worked closely with the Army Corps of Engineers, and Rancho Mirage, the Rancho Mirage Cove, what we call the Magnesia Falls Cove area, has been protected from flooding ever since. Now, in those days, there were 3 employees in the Public Works office. The director was Max Buchanan. He was an engineer. He was Steve Buchanan's father. Max retired 3 weeks after Bruce started working for the city of Rancho Mirage. Bruce worked under Ken Rosenfield from 1986 to 1990, and he worked under Eldon Lee from 1990 to 1997. When Eldon left, Bruce was appointed the Public Works Director, and he has held that position ever since. A couple of statistics for you. He has attended over 400 city council meetings, writing countless staff reports, and making many oral presentations in front of the city council. Bruce has managed his staff competently and professionally for all of these years. He's overseen 400 capital improvement projects worth over $600 million. This man has put his heart and soul into his job. He has done the very best to balance his career with being a good husband to Diana and father to Lauren and Brianna. But he and I have discussed recently that he has missed out on a lot of family time over the years. Bruce has taken off has not taken off more than 1 week at a time that I can remember. And we've worked together for the past 30 years. This man has been committed to the city of Rancho Mirage day in and day out for 30 years. You have earned your retirement, and you deserve it. Mr. Mayor has a couple of comments, and then we'd like to present you with this plaque.
Well, Bruce, I think the world should know that when a city council member is driving around town, or at least when this city council member is driving around town, and he encounters a traffic signal that's not working, if he has a cell phone, he gets on the phone and calls Bruce. Bruce, it's not working. Within an hour, 2 hours, the signal is working. It's been the history, except for one location, Bruce, and I think you know where I'm talking about. Via Florencia, isn't that the name of it? Now that's a bad intersection. Now, whoever takes your place, I'm just going to tell them you left it as a challenge rather than pointing out that you sit there for about 15 minutes before you can make a left turn, no matter how many no cars are coming this way. Could never get him to fix that one. He always told me that it was shade covering some sensor or something like that. But with that one exception, I've never known a public servant to be so responsive to anybody connected with the city, and not just to the people connected with the city. If somebody calls in, Bruce solves their problems too if they're solvable in a quick amount of time. The first project that I was involved in Rancho Mirage was the idea of undergrounding the overhead lines. And it was controversial at the time, but it was never controversial with you. Bruce was in favor of it. We spent a lot of time in the field looking at the areas. I spent a lot of time working with them, in a sense working with them, but you carried the burden all the way, and you had the rolling oar. But if we hadn't done it then, with the RDA money eventually being taken from us, the city would not have the undergrounding of all of the residential overhead lines. And that is in large part due to the diligence and the dedication to getting the job done, that particular job done, that Bruce Harry had at that time. My experience with you, Bruce, has been that you seem to have the same level of dedication to doing a good job quickly as possible, as inexpensively as possible as well. And I just got to tell you that I'm going to miss you and Diana's cookies a heck of a lot. So with that said, Randy, tell them what we've got there for them.
Okay, thank you. So we have a picture of the original City Hall, which is what we call the TP building. Originally, I think it was built in the early 1970s as a real estate office, and we're in the same location as the original City Hall building's located. There's also a photograph of Bruce's Public Works Department. It's the largest department at City Hall, and he's done a great job over the years managing the city and the department. When you drive around the city of Rancho Mirage, what you see is the infrastructure that built this city. This man is responsible for that. The city's been in existence for 42 years, and he's been at the helm of Public Works for the last 30. That's quite an accomplishment. And also, his name badge. You'll see his name badge in the middle here. And I know his wife is happy to not see him wear that anymore, possibly turn his cell phone off at some point in the future and present him with his honey-do list. Right? Okay. There you go, Bruce. Congratulations.
Well, last 2 weeks ago, we had a little reception for me out in the foyer after the last council meeting, and I was overwhelmed with the amount of staff and colleagues that I've worked with over the last 30 years that came. I know our fire staff is here today. They were wanting to be here, but they were out doing their job in fighting fires, which actually one turned up that day that they had to go fight at the south end of the valley. And I see a lot of them here today. As I said in that, it's very difficult to say goodbye to a job that I've had a lot of passion for the last 30 years. I love public works. I love engineering. I started my career with Bechtel Power Corporation over in Arizona. I worked on the 3 nuclear plants that are over there. They're 1,280 megawatts apiece. And those are still going strong today, and I was involved in each of those 3 startups on those plants. I drive by them every time I go over to Phoenix to visit my parents, and I always look over and gaze and say I had something to do with that. I'm going to always remember Rancho Mirage, all the projects that I was involved with here. I remember the 111 widening project. We widened all of 111 to 3 lanes. We got a grant through RCTC, $6.5 million, completely reimbursed to the city, and it didn't cost the city's general fund a dime to widen Highway 111. We have a major project that is still in the works. We're looking at building a bridge over Frank Sinatra at the Wash. We just completed the environmental document on that. We're going into the design phase now. And in early January of 2017, that project will break ground, and we'll have an all-weather crossing bridge at that location. Very beautiful bridge, low profile, will match the community, the surroundings, and that's something my successor is going to be very much involved with. My successor does start this coming Monday. I'll be working with him for the last week. Next Friday is my last day of work. But I just want to say that I really appreciate the city council, current one that I'm working for now, Randy, the city manager. I've worked with 3 city managers. The first city manager was Carl Hatfield. The second city manager was Patrick Pratt, and now Randy Binder. Me and Randy have gotten along great over the years, even though he's a Bruin and I'm a Trojan. But when football, yeah, that's my fault. But I've never held that against him. We've worked good. We've had a great camaraderie here at City Hall. The councils have been wonderful to work with over the years. They've always been supportive. This has been a great organization to grow up in. My career, I've stayed here because I just enjoyed working for this city. The residents are wonderful. They're caring. They come up and pat you on the back and say, good job. And that really goes a long way for staff to hear that from the residents. We really appreciate that. We're here to serve the residents, and we want to make sure that your quality of life is continually maintained to the highest level possible. So I want to thank everybody for coming today, and I will not be a stranger. We plan on staying in this area for a little bit longer, and it's really hard to say goodbye, but it is time to go, and so thank you, Randy. Thank you, Mayor.
I think we'll have, City Council has comments, and then I think we have a video to show.
Richard, why don't you start?
Okay, thank you. Well, Bruce, it's your last day, and over 15 years ago, I had the privilege of first sitting on this dais with you. The first projects that I was involved in were the Highway 111 widening, which you mentioned, and the sewer improvements in Magnesia Falls. After 15 years of many unusual projects, your last and best projects will probably be the amphitheater at the park and the new bridge over Frank Sinatra. Rancho Mirage has always been known for its quality projects, and you and your team never settled for second best. One of our best friends and former councilman, Alan Seaman, once called Rancho Mirage Shangri-La. Well, Bruce, without your commitment to our city, Shangri-La may have never been here in reality. We will miss you and hope you will return to Shangri-La to view the current masterpiece, your Rancho Mirage Community Park. Best of luck to you and your family, and we'll miss you.
Thank you, Richard. Charlie?
The new one down here. It's been my pleasure to work with you for 1 year and 2 months. And you've always been there for me, Bruce, and I really appreciate it. And hearing everything about you and the career you've had here, you've had an outstanding career, outstanding life, and the respect of enormous amount of people because you've just given your heart and soul to this city. And also Gordon always thought the world of you too, so my best to you.
Iris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, there's very little that I can add except to say that your commitment and involvement went far beyond your official job description, and your achievements are far too numerous and widespread to really mention here. You attended, I was told, 722 council meetings, all but 12 since, you missed only 12 since the city's incorporation. You've had the ability to compassionately hold everyone's hand, from commissioners to council members. You have fitted us with helmets for construction sites and groundbreaking celebrations. You have acted as a thoughtful and knowledgeable property tour guide. You have fixed problems quickly, expertly, and without fuss, even for residents not living in Rancho Mirage. You have given great input for our Rancho Mirage Community Park, our coming dog park, and you were the project manager for our amazing library, and it was nice to see your name up in front there. You have truly been the go-to man, always there and always ready to help. And in addition, I personally have been most appreciative of your gentle assistance, especially when I came on the council. He used to sit next to me. You carefully explained issues in detail. You obtained information when I needed it, and you've always answered emails in record time. So, when you walk out that door on your last day as Public Works Director, you will know that you are much loved, you will be greatly missed, and you will always have a lot of people's everlasting thanks for the many, many jobs you've done so very, very well.
Thank you. Ted?
Bruce, you have made an awful lot of people on this dais look awful good. You have been our go-to guy. Whether it be a major happening like the Frank Sinatra road work that's going on now, or if it's something on a much more modest basis, when I can call you and I get a question about what kind of trees are being put in the medium, and you're telling me the kind of trees, their drought resistance, how high they're going to grow, and I can relay that to our residents, boy, that makes me look like a genius. And I didn't know a thing about it. It all came from you. When somebody calls me and says, Mr. Councilman, how many parking places are there at the dog park? Who would know that? Only one person, Bruce Harry. And immediately he will say 18. And then the person says, how many are handicapped? Well, Bruce, how many are handicapped? And immediately it comes back 3. That's the depth of his knowledge, whether it be major or whether in the eyes of some people it's minor, but Bruce had it all. He made us look extremely good. And Bruce, thank you so much for your contributions over time.
Thank you very much. Randy, perhaps some of your colleagues on the staff would like to make comments now.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Isaiah, would you like to make some comments?
Bruce, I just wanted to formally say thank you before you left. I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with you for the last 3 years. And being new to the city and relatively new to the city, you were a great resource for me. You were very knowledgeable. If there was something that happened 20 years ago, many times I found myself in your office getting the answer. And so the stability and example that you provide to some of us new people has just been fantastic, and you will be missed greatly. And I just wanted to say that I appreciated everything that you've done for me during my time here.
Thank you, Randy. Bruce, from a resident's point of view, having been a resident, the city truly is in the finest shape ever. And I hear that comment from my neighbors as well. So on behalf of my husband and I and our street, we appreciate everything that you do, along with the staff in Public Works. They all make us look good as well. And I appreciate you asking me about cars and all those fun kinds of things, and construction and asphalt levels and all those good kinds of things that you know so much about. And on behalf of Human Resources, management analyst, our contract specialist, our IT manager, and myself, Johnny, and the ladies up in the front, we will miss you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Kim. Steve?
Thank you, Randy. I'd just like to say that there is nothing more noble than loving and caring for an aging parent, which is a reflection of Bruce's outstanding character as a good, decent, and model public servant. It's been an honor to work with Bruce this past decade. I've learned a lot from him. My staff has learned a lot from him. And although he may be leaving us, every time I drive into Rancho Mirage from Cathedral City and from Palm Desert, I will remember Bruce Harry by the silence of the roads on the emulsified, rubberized asphalt seal. Thank you, Bruce.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Steve. Are there any other staff members here that would like to make any remarks? I'm sure you've all talked to Bruce individually, but I wanted to open it up. Okay. Mr. Bryant, David Bryant, our library director.
Bruce, congratulations on an extraordinary career, and in my 7 years of having what I think is the best job in the world, but perhaps yours is even better, you've done an extraordinary job of taking care of our physical library, always agreeing that public safety is first, so that parking conditions and any trees that might be a hazard or any other conditions that could pose a threat or a risk to our public, you've taken care of brilliantly and quickly. So just to add to the great words today, thank you, and thank you for always looking out for our library. Really appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay, Bruce, can you please go take care of the air conditioning?
What a legacy you're leaving,
Clean
Bruce.
up the flood in the basement and... All right. Gonna
Okay.
miss you, buddy.
We'll move on now to non-agenda public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to a subject that is not on today's calendar? Seeing no one, we'll close that section and ask any council member if they have any comments to make. Charlie? Ted?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 4th of July commemorates independence. It's the day that our country became independent from Great Britain in 1776. The word that comes to mind is one of the most important in the dictionary, and that's freedom. And I was reminded yesterday of a comedian that made a statement, a presentation about...
Ted, excuse, officers back there, please, fire. Whoa, you guys walking out. Yes, you, come back, all of you come back. Well, that was close. I hated to have to send Lieutenant Shields after you. We had a video that we wanted to play in connection with Bruce's departure. Well, they're cool because they stayed. But you guys have earned your points back.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to do that now?
I'm going to do it right now. Thank you, Sarah.
again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. Happy trails to you.
Now, those of you who have other business, feel free to leave or stay as you wish.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank Lori LaFond and Lonnie Brock of our staff for putting the PowerPoint slides together for Bruce.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we were in the middle of a not-to-be-forgotten comment by board member, council member, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, let me say this.
Said Weil.
That interruption was absolutely deserved.
Well, then let's do it again.
What I have to say.
Anybody down here got anything to say?
Great.
That reminds me of a story.
Yeah, me too.
Hold your thoughts. I started to say before that Independence Day is freedom, one of the most important words in the dictionary. And the story that I'm about to show you, or the presentation, was done by a comedian by the name of Red Skelton, and it became extremely popular and famous for July 4th and Independence Day. And it probably describes the meaning of our independence better than I could describe it. So with that, if you would, Sarah.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I'd work in the summer and I'd go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, and he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts, freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Thank you. I'm always very proud when I play that and see it, and I'll conclude by just wishing you all a very safe and happy 4th of July. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moving on to...
Hold on, Mr. Mayor. I actually do have a story, if you don't mind, real quick. In the late 1980s, Bruce was driving on his way home from work on Frank Sinatra Drive. There was a car parked on the side of the road. He stopped to see if he could offer assistance. The lady in the car asked for a ride home. He drove her home onto Thompson Road, walked in the house. There was artwork all over the walls and a man sitting in the living room. It was Red Skelton. It was his wife.
I actually have one of his Pledge of Allegiance things, and he signed it for me, and I've got it framed at home. I'll bring it in sometime.
Okay, moving on to the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Wait. Okay.
Oh, I thought we had jumped out of order. Go ahead.
Okay. I have just 2 very brief things. Okay, and one of them is actually that dovetails what the presentation we just saw on how important it is that we recognize the greatness of our country. Because as we approach Independence Day, Saturday, July 4th, I would like to remind our residents that the city's television station, which is Channel 17, and if you can't get Channel 17, you can always tune in on our website, because we will be airing our patriotic programming from our library and the historical documentaries throughout the day. And they will begin Saturday morning at 6 a.m. They will run through midnight. It's 18 hours of broadcasting that celebrates the birth of the United States of America. This is put on every year, and also on Memorial Day weekend by our library, headed by David Bryant, and the programming really being put together by Susan Cook, our librarian senior, and also Dustin Ingham and the staff. So I want to thank them also for doing that, because it is such a memorable occasion that we celebrate, and it's important that we let everyone know how important it is to us. And the second item is I wanted to mention something very important that we are now featuring at our library, and you may be able to get a photo of this. It is a picture, a rendering, a color, watercolor rendering of our beautiful library. And now the library has packaged in these lovely little pouches with a cute little tie. It's very suitable for gift giving or buying for yourself, and giving as tributes to friends for a variety of things, whether it be birthdays or anniversaries or just thanking somebody for something. There's also wording inside that says this donation to the Rancho Mirage Public Library Foundation plays a role in programming and activities that benefit people of all ages and interests. And there's a place here to insert people's names, because it says a donation has been made to the library in honor of, or in memory of, or in celebration of. So feel free to come by the library. Maybe you'd like to buy a couple packets of them. They're $20 for a package of 5 of them, and they're a lovely gift, and we hope you will make use of them. And you can purchase them in our Book Nook, and we hope you will want to do that. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on.
You can't cut me off either, you know that.
How many times are we
Uh-oh.
going to... Sorry about that. I thought you spoke first, or was that...
No, actually,
was that
Charlie
20 minutes
spoke
ago?
first. That was an hour ago.
He forgot. He forgot.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. As the second vice president of the Mayors and Council Members Executive Forum of the League of California Cities, I'm happy to report that Rancho Mirage was well represented at the recent league meeting in Monterey. Mayor Pro Tem Weil, we always think of him as a big wheel, so we, okay. Sorry, Ted. We were both delighted to attend the session at which Robert Barrett, our Director of Marketing and Public Relations, served as the presenter on a panel entitled Communications with Residents. Robert's remarks and PowerPoint presentation made it clear that our city is really buttoned up when it comes to keeping our residents informed and engaged in the process of government. His comprehensive presentation touched on our commission structure, the mayor's message, our many library programs, our speaker series, our cultural commission programs, Writers Festival, and our art affair, as well as the websites, the apps, the Rancho Mirage TV, and our printed publications. His introductory remarks summarized how our city is funded and managed. I wish you had been able to be there, because when you hear about our city and see the beautiful images of our city in the context of this statewide meeting, it is strikingly apparent that we are extraordinarily fortunate to live and work in Rancho Mirage. Other cities struggle daily with a myriad of challenges. I am sure the audience of elected representatives that heard Robert's remarks, when they could all be transported, they wish they could all be transported to Rancho Mirage. Thanks again, Robert, for representing Rancho Mirage so well at the League of California Cities. Sorry, Ted.
Thank you, Richard. Is there anybody else I have forgotten?
No, but I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Well,
If
that
that's
works.
where you're
That
going.
works for me.
Does that work for you?
That works
Thought it
for me.
would.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to adopt the minutes as presented. Please vote. That motion carries unanimously. We move now to the briefest of all possible consent agendas. Randy, what do we have to consider here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make this brief presentation in honor of Michael Johnson that I see in the audience here today. His mother, Sandra Johnson, has done a marvelous job raising him as a single mom, balancing her career and her family responsibilities, and he's a mature, well-rounded young man, and I'm proud of him, and I'm sure his mother is too. Consent calendar. There are 3 items, Mr. Mayor. The first one is to waive the full reading of the ordinances that are introduced or adopted pursuant to today's agenda. Item number 2 is approval of contracts, and there's 1 contract in your agenda. Item number 3 are demands. We are here to answer any questions.
Does anybody request anything be pulled?
No.
Hearing none.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll close that portion. The motion's been made. Who seconded it? It's been moved and seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to discussion. A very brief update on the CV Link matter. The City of Rancho Mirage presented a motion at the June 29th meeting of the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. The motion was for CVAG to retain an independent outside attorney to give an opinion as to the appropriateness of using Measure A funds to assist in the payment of operations or maintenance or construction of the CV link. Our motion failed 10-2, and so there will be no second opinion as to that matter. They are relying on the opinion of the General Counsel for the Riverside County Transportation Commission, and that's that. There's no additional information concerning a route that may or may not go through the city. There's no additional information with respect to who pays how much toward the operations and maintenance expenses of the CV link once in operation. So at the end of that, let me move on then to the public hearing. And Randy, what's item number 5 all about?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll turn this over to our Code Compliance Manager, Sandra Johnson, to talk about her activities this past year. Sandra?
Thank you, Randy. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. What you have before you today is the annual levy of special assessments for public nuisance abatement costs performed during the past fiscal year 14-15 for tax roll liens scheduled in 15-16. Excuse me, for 14-15 abatements for tax rolls on 15-16. Before we get started, I'd like to make note of a possible amendment. One property needs to be removed from the listing right now. It's notified as Exhibit A on your list. It's number 1 at 70077 Ramon Road. So that'll be one property removed off the list, which would bring it down to 9 properties, and the total amount would be $19,137.50 instead of the original.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Is there any questions of Ms. Johnson? Seeing none. Anybody in the audience like to address the matter? Seeing none.
I have one question that maybe Sandra can kind of fill us in on, and maybe you could tell us what procedures you go through to notify owners or occupants of these abandoned or vacant properties.
I have a full presentation. I'm going to answer all your questions, I promise.
Okay.
But we'll get to that.
Great. Thank
That's
you.
in the next slide for you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any questions specific to this property, the owner, new proposed owner, has made arrangements with the city to pay this fee as well as the administrative fines that have been assessed against the property. That's why it was removed.
Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to address this subject? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution and then give direction to the city clerk? It can all be done in one motion.
I will make that motion.
Okay, using the exact language of the staff report at 5-1?
I agree.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, vote something else. Motion carried unanimously. Your question apparently was not answered because I did not understand. I'm sorry, Sandra. I thought you had concluded your presentation, but apparently you had not.
Probably my choice of words. I told you to amend prior to giving the presentation. So I'd just like to give a couple slides.
You were
of
going to
background
explain what Ms. Smotrich had asked.
I'd love to. Thank you for the opportunity. As Councilmember Smotrich had asked, there's a series of notifications that are given to the property owner. Prior to abatement, the city complies with all required provisions of the Code of Civil Procedure, which is known as due process, by providing the reasonable parties with an opportunity to abate the conditions themselves. This resulted in the serving of demands on the responsible parties for payment of the applicable abatement costs. At the same time, the responsible parties were also advised of their right to appeal. As shown in Exhibit B, this is the notice for the public hearing that was sent out 2 weeks prior to today's meeting, and in a letter that was sent to each individual property owner and any agent of interest. The type of health and safety conditions included, but were not limited to, contaminated swimming pools and ponds of polluted and stagnant water that promoted breeding grounds for vectors and posed safety hazards. Here you can see the post-city abatement action where the pool and jacuzzi was drained. Other conditions may include deteriorated landscaping, fire hazard conditions, and adverse effects on neighboring properties. Other conditions may include lumber and junk and trash debris accumulation. This is an after picture of an abatement process. Here are some photos here of visual blight conditions, which include the city going in and boarding up windows, securing the property, and installing new locks. Other conditions are vandalism, in which the city hires contractors to go out and abate these conditions as well. I just want to talk a little bit about the cost recovery and the process of our lien abatement program that is very successful in recovering the cost for the city. As you can see, the last 6 years' trends, the total cost for the abatement program has been about $14,000 towards the city. However, with the issuance of notices and administrative fines, the bottom line is that the city is still ahead over $200,000 by way of this type of process and by way of administrative fines. So that covers the cost of staff time, legal fees, notifications, and things of that nature. If you have any questions about today's PowerPoint presentation, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mayor?
Yeah.
Sandra, the property on Biskra, could you give us some background on that, please?
The property on Biskra is now up for sale, has gone into bankruptcy foreclosure proceedings, and is now still being monitored under our staff and is secured.
And how long have we been working on that property?
A year and a half now.
Okay, so sometimes it takes a little while, but eventually...
It had to go through the probate hearing first, and then ultimately went through the foreclosure process.
Okay, good job.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wish to discuss this item? Seeing none, can we have a motion that can incorporate, well, we already have the motion. Why don't we take that motion of Councilman Townsend, and A and B are included in one motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Weil. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Move now to item 6. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll turn this over to our management analyst, Britt Wilson. Britt? Talk about a resolution calling on the state and federal legislators to support efforts to mitigate environmental degradation at the Salton Sea.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Honorable Council. In May, Mr. Scott White, who is the Executive Director or the Chief Executive Officer and President of the Greater Palm Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau, made a presentation to this body about the degradation of the Salton Sea and in particular its impact, potential impact upon tourism. Mr. White asked for support of the City Council, which the City agreed to. So in that light, we have brought forth a resolution to you. We have run this by the Coachella, or the Convention and Visitors Bureau, obviously, the Imperial Irrigation District, and the Coachella Valley Water District. And it is before you for consideration. Mr. White was not available today, but we do have Kathy Strong, if she's still here. Kathy is still here. Say you're patient. If you have any questions of her. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of staff?
Brett, I have a question regarding the actual seating of a Rancho Mirage council member or commissioner on any kind of a board that is in reviewing the situation of the Salton Sea. Do we have any representation on any of the groups down there?
On any of the boards, like at the water districts or something like that? Right. I am not aware of any. CVAG talks about Salton Sea, and of course, as you know, at the Energy and Environmental Resources, I attend those meetings as an observer, and I believe it's Councilmember Townsend is our representative. So Salton Sea issues are brought up before that, but I'm not aware of any particular board that the city sits on.
Such as the Salton Sea Advisory Authority, that sort of thing?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we should look into that and see if we can have some representation on that kind of an organization.
Certainly. Staff would be happy to research that.
Iris?
And my comment really related to the same thing, because we are, according to what we read and according to Scott White, facing a very serious situation from the Salton Sea, especially when the winds blow to the west. And I know that we asked if there was something that we could do to show our support, and I know passing a resolution is a good step and maybe a first step. Are there any letters that we can request that our residents send to Sacramento? Do we have representatives that we are sending from the Coachella Valley to Sacramento? Are there any of the cities that are really participating in maybe sending their delegates to Sacramento to do some lobbying, to talk to different official representatives that are in office?
We are, if assuming the council passes this resolution, I've given a mailing list to the city clerk, and this will be sent to the governor, our state and federal legislators, the assemblymen, the senators. But I don't know, Kathy may have some ideas about reaching out to the public, and we do have the Salton Sea Restoration license plate program, that sort of thing. But if Kathy has any additional thoughts.
Thank you so much, Mayor Hobart and City Council members. We really are involved. We got involved because we realized the importance, economic viability for tourism in our valley, air quality, everything that's important to our quality of life. But one way that we felt we could get awareness to the community and outside the community was by participating in a program such as a specialty license plate for the Salton Sea that has been very successful for Lake Tahoe and many other causes that needed to raise monies and awareness. And we have been working with the Salton Sea Authority Board, with CVEG, and various cities to spread that word that people can get a license plate. We would love to be able to participate in that with your city. On that level, through newsletters, emails, whatever you'd like to do, we can supply you with information. And we are at a point now where we have to reserve 7,500 specialty license plates before the DMV will print them, and people have to pay their money. And it's a hard one. It's a hard one to do. We're given a year. We might have a year's extension. We show them what our marketing efforts are, and we are working at it very diligently right now. But any way you'd like to participate in that awareness marketing, we would really love that. So just let me know, and we'll supply you with any collateral you need for that.
And how are the sales going for the...
Not well.
Okay.
And I hate to say it, we're trying to find, yes, all of you may sign up today. We're trying to find a way to be able to accept credit cards. We cannot handle payment directly, as Steve's well aware. We have to go through Fish and Wildlife. It's a state agency. And right now they're telling us they can't take credit cards. So there are a few of us who still write checks, but a lot of people don't. And if they have to take that extra step, it's a deterrent. And we're fighting with that right now.
Wasn't there an issue to postpone it for a year and then bring it back when you have the credit cards available?
We'd rather not do that, because what we've been told, because we do have momentum going and people are excited about the idea of doing something for the Salton Sea, it's something everybody can do personally, which is a wonderful thing, and the awareness is out there whether we're getting all the license plates or not. I send in a marketing program for our license plate program once a month, and it goes to the DMV through Fish and Wildlife. And if they see that we're really trying, and we are, they will give us a year's extension. So we're hoping that that's the way it will work.
Good.
So we will see soon. But I'll be happy to help with that program in any way that I can with the city.
Are there any other cities that are passing this resolution and sending this in?
We're hoping that this sets the tone. We thank you for that so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address this subject? Seeing none, why don't I make a motion that the City of Rancho Mirage support the Salton Sea Authority by calling on legislators to mitigate the environmental degradation of the Salton Sea. There's moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Dana, I would like to see that motion, an amendment to that, to see if we can have some sort of representation on the Salton Sea Authority Board, or if there's any other way that the City of Rancho Mirage can have more input as to what's going on.
I don't think that would be germane to the motion, but if you'd like to hang on a second, we can try to address that. All those in favor of the motion as I stated it, please vote yes. Opposed, vote no. Motion carries unanimously. And what is it that you'd like to achieve?
Yeah, I think the mayor has the capability of appointing people to various boards or commissions. And what I'd like to find out from Britt is if there is some way that the City of Rancho Mirage can participate in some of the decision-making process that goes on at the Salton Sea.
To my best recollection, we do not have a Salton Sea subcommittee of this council, and perhaps we should create one, appoint 2 people to it, and those 2 people could undertake to represent the city and along the lines that you've indicated. Does that sound decent to you?
Sounds good to me.
It's good.
Okay. The mayor will exercise his prerogative of creating such a subcommittee, and I would ask that anybody who is interested in serving on it to let Randy know, and we'll deal with that subject shortly. Okay? Okay. Let's move on to item number 7.
Very good.
Steve, what's this all about?
Thank you. Actually, a couple days ago, the basement at City Hall smelled a little like the Salton Sea on its worst day. What I have today here on the agenda pertains to spa facilities, or what the state knows or calls massage establishments. And you also have, we have 3 ordinances here. The first 2 ordinances, the first ordinance is what is called an urgency zoning ordinance, and we placed it on your agenda as an urgency ordinance because it's been recommended by staff and the city manager that we have this ordinance take effect immediately, since there has been some interest out in the community, the business, among some applicants to open up massage establishments in some of your commercial areas where we had problems with those kind of establishments in the past. So this would put that ordinance in effect immediately. We are also going to have a companion ordinance, which is basically the same ordinance, go through your planning commission. So we'll have that ordinance take effect as ordinances normally take effect. In the event we're challenged on the urgency ordinance, we'll have that one in effect.
Is that 7B, or is that independent of these 3 items?
That is 7A, yeah. It's independent of these 3 items.
Okay, so
that's going to
7A is the current one.
Correct.
Okay. Do we need a 2/3 vote on that?
Yes, we do. Okay. We need a 2/3 vote on the urgency ordinance. The other 2 ordinances are the same, except one's an urgency ordinance and one's the companion regular ordinance. And so what I would like to, the zoning ordinance. Here's what's happening with zoning.
Is that B, 7B?
This is 7A. 7A, so the recommendation is to just permit massage establishments or spa facilities in 2 zones in the city, and that is the resort hotel zone and community commercial. With the adoption of this ordinance, they will no longer be permitted in neighborhood commercial zones or general commercial zones or regional interstate commercial zones. So we'll just allow them in 2 zones.
Since you've not indicated here the wording of the motion that you would like to see passed, can you state orally what the motion should be with respect to the urgency ordinance?
Yeah, the motion would be to adopt urgency zoning ordinance number blank regarding location of spa facilities.
Second.
I have a question. Define the difference between spa, which I think of as one of the hotels, or massage, which is a 1,100, 1,200 square foot building somewhere with a massage sign. What's the difference?
Well, what we're actually
looking
doing is we're taking the definition of spa facilities that's currently set forth in your code and matching that up with the definition of massage establishment. Because regardless of what we call it, they're regulated as massage establishments by the state.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
they're
So it's
basically
really
identical.
one and the same, right?
Pardon?
It's one and the same.
Yeah, one and the same.
Okay.
So, Steve, what areas are we eliminating by the passage of this ordinance?
We're eliminating commercial, neighborhood commercial, general commercial.
Such as?
Regional interstate commercial.
If I can help. Neighborhood commercial would be the Albertsons and the Pavilion Shopping Center, Hagen Shopping Center. General commercial primarily is up and down Highway 111. Regional commercial, there isn't any development there yet. It would still be allowed in the resort hotel zone, obviously, and the community commercial zone, which is the Home Depot Shopping Center and all of the vacant land that's south of it that hasn't been developed yet.
So it sounds like most of the area in the city is not allowed for this particular business. Going back again, the areas that would be approved would be hotels, and what was the other area?
Community commercial.
Which is what?
Large-scale commercial shopping centers.
Like the river?
No.
Well, no, the Pavilions has a foot massage in it. I think it's Randy's talking about. There's a difference there.
So what would be an example of the commercial area?
Where it's allowed?
Yes.
The Home Depot Shopping Center would be one example.
Okay, and the river would not?
No.
Okay. Rancho Las Palmas?
No.
Those are too small?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of staff on this matter? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this matter? Seeing none, we'll close that portion. Steve, state your motion again, and then somebody adopt it as their motion with the motion to pass it.
The recommendation would be to make a motion to adopt urgency zoning ordinance number next in line regarding the location of spa facilities within the city of Rancho Mirage.
Who makes that motion? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote. The motion carries unanimously. We go to 7B now, Steve, is that it?
7B, we can discuss both 7B and 7C since substance-wise they're identical
Will
with the
it take
exception
two
of...
motions or one?
I would prefer two motions on this
Okay.
one. Now, over the past decade and a half, there's been a lot of confusion with respect to who regulates massage therapists and how they're regulated. And in the about 10, 15 years ago, the CVAG had produced a model massage ordinance, and they introduced this concept of a reciprocal massage permit. And what that did was that it created a kind of it expedited the process for getting massage therapists licensed and permitted in the valley. And they weren't subject to different standards and different regulations from city to city. So a number of the cities participated in that program, including the city of Rancho Mirage. So that's worked out very well particularly for the spa resorts and for the massage therapists as well. Well, a few years ago, there was legislation that passed through Sacramento that wasn't very popular with cities because it took away the ability for cities to regulate massage therapists, and so it was very difficult to monitor them and kind of weed out, the legitimate massage therapists from the illegitimate ones. Well, the California League of Cities got very involved with the next round of legislation, and I believe that the legislation that was introduced and took effect January 1st has struck a very nice balance between the interests of the massage therapists, the massage industry, and cities and counties which regulate them. And essentially, what the law provides now is that cities are not involved with the permitting or licensing of massage therapists. The state handles that. So if somebody has a permit or a license or a certificate to engage in the business of massage, all cities have to recognize that. The one thing that we can do, and most cities are doing this now, is that we can require a business license to be obtained by a massage therapist who's acting as an independent contractor. If the massage therapist, however, works as an employee for a spa facility, the spa facility gets the business license. So if we have any complaints about, from the public about a massage therapist, we report those complaints directly to the state. Unless, of course, if they're committing a crime, then our local law enforcement would take care of that. So now we can require business licenses, and the cities can deny a business license based on specific criminal convictions. Lots of cities had a provision that if you just had a misdemeanor or basically a speeding ticket, you wouldn't get a permit. We can deny a license if they have been convicted for specific types of crimes, and those are sex offense-related crimes. We can also limit their hours of operation. So for spa facilities, the recommendations from 6 to 9 p.m. That's just pretty standard in the industry. I don't know if everybody's doing that already. We haven't received any complaints. I don't believe we've actually changed that. Yeah, that's not being changed. We can prohibit the service of alcohol. We can require that they disinfect their instruments, that they have clean towels, sheets, and linens, and they provide a list of the services that they provide on site. So we pretty much are limited with respect to the kind of conditions that we can impose on the operation of massage establishments and massage therapists, because the state has taken on that responsibility. So the presumption is that when somebody comes in with a state-issued certificate or license, that person is qualified to engage in the business of massage therapy. So the reason why this ordinance, the ordinances in here are thick, is because what you're seeing is that you're seeing we're repealing everything we have in the code. Throughout the code, there's a lot of references to massage therapists or massage establishments, so we're deleting all of those. It's a lot easier just to delete them and adopt a whole new chapter. So you'll see sections in here that deal with adult entertainment. The law specifically says we cannot treat massage establishments as any form of adult entertainment.
Right.
So we're taking it out of there. And so that concludes my staff report. If you have any questions,
So
Sandra
what is the
Johnson.
motion, Steve, that somebody would make?
The motion here would
That the
be
council
to...
adopt and then read what you've got there?
Correct.
Okay.
So Steve, one more time, why are these urgency ordinances?
Where?
Why?
Oh, why? Why? Because we need to have these take effect immediately, because we have several massage establishment applicants, in the pipeline, and there's a number of massage therapists out there who really prefer this. Because right now we have a number of massage therapists who are operating under our regulations when they should be operating under the state. And the response I've received from massage therapists is they all want this. Because they just want one place to go to get a permit and a license or a certificate.
So have we notified these people that have licenses pending that this legislation is
We haven't, but they have to know. If you're in this business, most massage therapists know.
Councilman Kite, we have began notification process upon renewal, knowing that this law was going into effect as of January 1. We started the process at the renewal of their permit to inform them that the new CAMTC was coming on board, and they need to transition into the state-recognized certificate instead of the city-regulated permit. So notifications have begun.
Okay, thank you.
Does this
I just know the state's
particularly,
been flooded with applications, so they're running a little behind, but that's the state's issue.
Steve, I have
does
a
this
question.
particularly...
Hang on, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Charlie?
Does this particularly apply, like you say, in the pipeline? Are you saying that individuals, or are you saying people that are going to work for a brick-and-mortar salon or spa?
We have massage establishments and brick-and-mortar applicants who are
And this is
interested
what
in
it is.
opening up in areas where staff is determined are incompatible with the current uses.
And how is this all policed, like if they have criminal records or pedophiles or whatever? So through Sandra's office?
the
Yes.
state won't issue a
Also, we
certificate.
also have an inspection program. We currently have one in place now for those types of businesses. We would go out quarterly and conduct inspections on the regulatory aspects of that business. If they're found to be in violation, we could then contact CMTC, who would also suspend their certificate, as well as any business infractions we could impose.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify, because you mentioned that if there's an independent contractor, that they will be licensed. And if they choose to work for an established business, they themselves do not have to be licensed or have a permit, but the business itself does. And so we're going to have our own city enforcement conducting investigations plus state investigations, or is this all going to be monitored just by our city?
If you come into the city of Rancho Mirage and you're going to work as an employee for one of our local spa facilities at one of our local resorts, you need to have a massage therapist certificate, license, permit from the state, but you do not need a business license from the city. If you're going to work as an independent contractor, because you're going to work in Desert Hot Springs, La Quinta, Indian Wells, and Rancho Mirage, then you need a business license from the city of Rancho Mirage, and you also need that same permit from the state. If you're a massage establishment, you're going to run this business, and you're going to hire these people or retain them as independent contractors. You, as the owner and operator of that massage establishment, needs a permit, a land use permit to operate, and you also need a business license. And all your employees still need to be, and your independent contractors need that certificate, permit. I don't even know what they're calling, the state's calling it, but that you need that license.
It's a certificate.
The certificate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Steve? Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions concerning the matter? Seeing none, we'll close that portion. Who'd like to make a motion with respect to this urgency ordinance?
Dana, how will we do it? The urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage?
Yeah, just move that the city council adopt and then just read it.
All right, that I move that the City Council adopt urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage, repealing in their entirety chapters 5.17.
Oh, well, no,
Is that the way to do it, or what?
excuse me, Charlie, the next paragraph.
That the City Council adopt as an urgency ordinance the proposed ordinance which repeals chapters 5.17 and 8.06 in their entirety, comma, amends chapter 5.16 and sections 8.07.031, comma, and adopts chapters 5.35 and 5.40, comma, establishing business license requirements, grounds for denial of business licenses for massage therapists and spa facilities, comma, along with establishing certain health and safety requirements for said facilities, comma, for the immediate preservations of the public peace, comma, health and safety.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We'll now go to the third item, which is 7C.
And my recommended motion to the council would be just to introduce the ordinance number next in line, the first reading regarding regulation of massage therapy business activities. It's the same ordinance.
Same ordinance?
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Any discussion from anyone in the audience? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. We're at the end of our regular agenda. Steve, what are we going to be doing in closed session?
Well, Mr. Mayor, the City Council at this point is going to recess into closed session to confer with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 regarding the case of Veronica Juarez versus the City of Rancho Mirage and 3 potential litigation items.
Thank you. Is that yours? We'll stand in recess.